Welcome back. I'm Tim Erlander with the Republican Roundtable, and I'm glad to be back with you again after my disappearance last month. With me is my co-host, Mark Sullivan. Mark, it's always good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you again.
And we are very delighted to have as our guest Sanu, Patel-Zellinger. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I was hoping I would. And thank you so much for coming and being with us today, and we're looking forward to interviewing you. We hope to talk you into running for the Senate, but we may fail. But even so, we'll still enjoy the prospect. Now, Sanu, just in case some people don't know, you originally were born in India.
Yes, that's correct. I was born in India. I came to the U.S.
Now you were Gujarati, right?
Yes, my parents. Yes, that's the city. Came to the U.S. in the early '90s. Didn't have much when I came over. Mm-hmm. My parents had to sell my mom had to sell some of her jewelry to put us on a plane to get here.
Okay.
And so I came here with my younger siblings. Mm-hmm. It was actually pretty good. We had the chance to get jobs and take night classes to put ourselves through college. So it's a long time back.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And what we would like to do is to inquire what you thought you would find when you got to America and how that all worked out. How it was different and how it seemed to be the same. Can you go into that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. Mm-hmm. And actually, growing up in the other side of the world, the idea of America was actually really, really exciting. We had American music, American clothes, and everyone wanted to, have anything that was American. If you had anything that was an American brand, for example, it was really cool. So growing up, it was this land, this magical land that everyone wanted to go to. So that's the image I had all along. I never thought I'd come here.
Okay.
So when I did,
what exactly was it that prompted you to actually come here?
My parents are really big on education, and they felt that
I can think of a lot worse things to be big on.
Well, and so they felt like the U.S. would have the best education, higher education for us.
Okay.
And so they sent us here for that.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
Did you originally plan to stay, or were you thinking of coming home when you got here?
I don't remember what the discussions were then. I was like in my mid to late teens, and all I remember was we were finally coming to the U.S., the country you'd heard all about, and so I was literally. All I was thinking of, I'm on my way to the U.S. I think it was until
you're on the way to the U.S.
Yes,
you're going to get an education, and
then we'll see.
And whoever thinks farther than that, anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll see what happens. And for the first couple of weeks, I was still in this opinion of like, wow, I'm actually in the U.S. I'm actually walking on American soil. Imagine that. But I don't think I actually had any rude awakening. It was pretty much what I imagined.
That's interesting.
Except the weather. I did not expect the weather. So coming from a very, very warm, dry place, we came in the middle of winter. There was like mounds of snow.
Do you have the monsoon in Gujarat?
Yes. And if you want snow, you go climb up the Himalayas, and you climb up 20,000 feet before you see the first sprinkling of snow. So here to see...
You're not used to having 3 feet of it in your backyard.
More like 12 feet? No.
Okay.
No, wasn't used
after
to
the
that.
first 3 feet, it all seems the same.
Right. So I think the weather was something I didn't expect. Everything else was, I think, from my perspective, absolutely perfect. People were very welcoming. When I started applying for college, I went to Normandale first. It was a little bit more inexpensive. People were very helpful. They're like, is this what you're trying to do? Well, here's how you do that, and here's where the office is and whatever. So they were very helpful. I got my first job. My first job was actually at McDonald's, and
there's a lot of us have done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you came here. Let's step back just a little bit. You came here all starry-eyed. Okay, this is the big the place to come, the land of opportunity, the whatever.
Yeah.
Was it actually what you was it actually what you thought it was?
Imagine.
Was it actually to you the land of opportunity, the land where anything can happen? Like, because these days you hear a lot of people say no, it's not. I mean, is this what do I want to say? I guess the shining city up on the hill. I mean,
From my perspective, I do.
okay.
When I came, I had a suitcase and maybe a couple $100s. I had to get a job right away. I found it. You know,
Oh, wonderful.
there were four hire signs, so all I had to do was go in and apply for it, and you know, the jobs were there.
Oh, that's
In terms
wonderful.
of getting an education, the classes were there. You know, there were grants available, there were loans available.
Living conditions.
You could, they were available.
Okay.
I, you know, first
I
lived
mean,
in Bloomington.
compared to India, where you came from.
Where we came from, I've always lived in large cities too, so that
Okay.
was kind of similar. And I first lived in Bloomington, which is really close to Normandale, so it was easy enough to find that. I think
Our
what
drivers here are a little saner than the ones over in India.
yes,
From what I've seen.
definitely,
They're
definitely. The driving is much more sane.
insane.
Yeah, I would not drive in India.
I mean,
It's a little
in
crazy.
spite of what some of us think occasionally, especially
Yeah.
on these on mornings when all the traffic piles up,
Yeah,
it is a little saner driving here. But
yeah.
so
Yes,
it
I
actually
don't-
it did turn out to be the shining city on the hill for you.
I absolutely think so. The one thing is, you know, I had to work, and I had to take night classes. It wasn't, my peers were after, you know, maybe taking classes, and then they were hanging out, you know, at the pub, or maybe going to a party or whatever. I didn't have time for that, and frankly, I didn't have the money for that. So it did mean I had to make a couple sacrifices. So I think it's a question of hard work and the occasional sacrifice. And if you're willing to do that, this is absolutely the land of opportunity. Because I look back to, you know, where I was and what I had back then to where I am now. I'm able to help my parents financially, my siblings and I, all of us together. I feel like I have a great job in a great company. We live in a great city. So
What is your degree in, Sanu?
business. I have a
Okay.
bachelor's in business, and then I went back to college maybe 5-6 years later and got my master's from the same university.
Oh, that's nice. And where do you work now?
Best Buy.
Best Buy,
Yes.
okay, we all know where that is.
Yeah.
Do you work in the big headquarters?
I do.
Oh my gosh,
Management.
Yes.
Okay, good.
that's real interesting. What do you do for Best Buy? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. I've done a lot of different jobs over the years. I used to work at Target before Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some great opportunities. I had the chance to go to Turkey and the UK when we were opening lab stores for Best Buy. I've had the chance to be in the merchant world where our job was to negotiate with vendors, work on contracts, budgets, forecasts, decide what products you want to put in the stores. So you're actually deciding the assortment, you're deciding the pricing, you're deciding the promotions, some really good, exciting work. I currently am involved in building capabilities and products. So anything to improve the customer experience, because that's our number one focus. We want to drive the customer experience, and so everything else we do needs to tie into that. So that's what I'm doing currently.
You know, in almost any other country except this one, that would be an impossible story. It would just not happen. Only in America. Do you realize that?
Yes, I do.
And I mean, and what I'm hearing from you is something, you know, a lot of people are saying the American dream is dead.
I
That,
would
you know,
not
you know, that you can't make it unless the government steps in and help you. You can't make it unless, you know, there's someone there pushing you, or you can't make it unless you're bored into money that you hit the lottery, you know, life's lottery. And that's not what you're saying.
No.
You're saying this is the place where you can come and you can be the lowest person on the totem pole, and you can still, the old adage, you can still grow up to be president.
You could, and we have examples of that right here. Look at our presidents. You know,
Yeah,
right
look
from
at 'em.
if you look at right starting
Do
from
I
Abraham
have to?
Lincoln.
I mean,
You
yeah,
know,
I mean,
start
I
from, you've got so many examples of people who have become presidents who had absolutely nothing. We've got all the examples right here in this country. That tells me that it's still very much the land of opportunity.
and,
That is a
you-
wonderful
you don't
story.
hear that anymore, and that's I find that fascinating that you would consider this the land of opportunity. I mean, that's good, because I think that's a viewpoint I would like more people to have. I wish, you know, a lot of people, especially those born here, would realize that, you know, it's not the government that gets you. You know,
Yeah, they
everyone's
thought-
not born equal. they're born with equal opportunity.
That's right.
And you take advantage of it, you work for it, you could have it. If you want it bad enough and you're willing to go out there and work for it, you can have it. You know,
That's right.
The dream is still there.
Yeah, and it may be tied to perhaps what we keep hearing. When I was growing up, my parents always told us, you're going to make your life, we will help you, we'll support you, we will guide you, but you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to own your life. And I guess I grew up hearing that. And when I first came here, it didn't even occur to me to sit on a couch and wait for a handout. And even if it had, I couldn't look my parents in the eye and say, that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's what you sent me over for, you know? So it was a matter of principle. It was a matter of, it's my life. I own it. And it's not for you to support me. You have your own lives to worry about. You know, I can own my own life. If I need help, I'll raise my hand. But I definitely don't want to be dependent on anybody else. And that's one of the reasons I don't personally think we want a government to do everything for everybody. If you're vulnerable, that's a different story. But for the majority of the citizens, you want the government to create empowerment. You want the government to create the situation, create the infrastructure, and the environment that allows every individual to be who they can be. Let them, rise to the stars. Why limit them? Because the minute we create a dependency, that's all they can rise to.
Government cannot do it for you.
They cannot.
You know,
because if they do, then you're relying on them for everything.
Government can help clear the way a little bit, but government is not going to do it for you. Government never has done it for you, never will do it for you. You still have to do it yourself. And I think a lot of people are forgetting this. They're thinking it's going to just be dropped in their lap. Or do you think I'm crazy? I don't know. This is basically what you're saying is if you go out and work for it, you could have it. But
Now,
there are a
there's
lot
one
of people
thing I
out there
want
who
to
don't believe that.
talk about. You have had a run for the state legislature in your past history.
Yes.
You're never going to get away from that again.
It was a great experience. I
Yeah.
met some amazing people. I'll always remember the opportunity.
And I can't help but when I'm listening to you, you have something very definite to say to the American people, to the people of Minnesota, and even to our Minnesota legislature, which sometimes seems to be less intelligent than the average American. That's putting it gently. So is there any possibility we could ever talk you into running again?
Not in the near future. I've got a lot with my day job and everything else, and the Senate is a large area to run for. That takes a lot. That'll take a lot more effort and time.
Yes, I ran for it. There's a lot of houses in that Senate district.
Yeah.
A lot of them. A lot of doors to knock on.
But it's there are a lot of great individuals who would run. To me, it's about leadership, and to me, every person can be a leader. Every person is a star in the right environment. If you have a certain job and you're just not enjoying it, it's simply finding the right environment. And to me, my experience is business. I've grown up in the business world. I have my degrees in business, and I look at how the business work performs. You don't have the top leaders doing all the work, and you certainly don't have the top leaders doing my job. If they couldn't,
Right.
the company wouldn't work. It wouldn't run. We would fail.
That's for
But
sure.
what they do is provide the infrastructure. They provide empowerment. I have a building, I have a desk and a chair, and I have a laptop, and they provide me what I need.
They provide the basic guidance. Okay, this is the basic
Here's our
overall
vision.
plan.
Yeah, here's our
This
vision.
is your part of it, and
And then they expect me to deliver. They expect me to do my job.
Right.
Exactly.
And perhaps we could translate some of that to our situation, the government and and politics. We want leaders in the government, and leaders. Let's define leaders. To me, leaders is not just about the skills, the soft skills and the competency. It's also about the character, and to me, that is a leader empowers. A leader doesn't create a dependency. So when the leader is gone, work doesn't stop. You know how to keep going. Leaders have integrity. They are fully aware of the decisions they're making and what the impact's going to be. They don't make excuses of, oh, well, I voted for this or I made this decision, but look, I didn't expect that result.
Yeah.
That's not a leader.
No, it's
To me, a leader owns all of those things. And perhaps we need to have more leaders in our government.
Well, more leaders who sometimes have a backbone and will actually
Yes,
stick.
have
Okay,
courage, have integrity.
This is what I believe. This is what, unless you prove me wrong, this is what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah.
And and this is my plan, and I'm going for it. And I'm going to
There's one more thing I think I'd like to inquire. I think people would be interested in. You mentioned your parents. Are you and your family here in America sending them help over periodically?
No, I'm glad to say my parents are here now.
They are?
Yes.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yes, we see them at least once a week, if not more often.
Well, that's wonderful.
Now, I understand a little bit that you have. We talked just a little bit before the show, and there's some comments about what a Republican is. And some people have, ideas that, Republicans are, we want dirty water, we want this, we want that, we're these evil people out there. What, okay, in your definition, what would you say, actually defines a Republican? Is there any, or what are some of the qualities that you would say actually a Republican actually is in your eyes? Sure.
In my opinion, Republican, conservative, to me is about personal responsibility. You take ownership of your life, your success. It's about a limited government. If the government is too big, then of course you don't have that, that liberty.
Right.
It's about freer markets. Have some rules and regulations so everyone has the same playing field, absolutely. But then it's up to let the companies succeed. Let them compete and succeed, and let them innovate when their necessity is the mother of innovation, and so let them do great. I think conservatism also is about individual liberty. It's about the traditional American values, which is what the rest of the world aspires to. It's a strong national defense. To me, I think those are some of the things to me that is what are conservative values. And also we're a republic. We're not a democracy, and to me, a republic is about the rights of the individual.
Right.
Every individual is important and
actually
has
representative
rights.
republic.
Yes.
That's
not
amazing.
a
I think
democracy.
at least half the public, probably more like 9/10, do not have that distinction in their head. They think that democracy is supposed to be what's going to give them everything they want. And that's really unfortunate.
Well, actually, in a true democracy, everyone would vote on everything. That means every bill in the State House, every bill in Congress in Washington would have to be voted on by every individual in the country. And of course, that's statistically just impossible. Yeah.
Right.
So that's why we have a representative republic. Basically, we elect a representative, in case our senators are representatives, to go and supposedly vote for us.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. One more thing. I know my history well enough to know that India started out as a socialistic country under Nehru, who went to the London School of Economics and thought he understood the world. Can you just explain how that worked out for the people of India?
Yes. In a summary, in a nutshell, it's a form of government that was, well, after India won her independence, with the leadership under Gandhi, they had a socialist government.
Right, they did.
And it was a difficult time for them at that, for the first 10, 20 years,
right.
I think. And it's only now that it's really opening up from an economy perspective, from business. And growing up, what I saw was either you had everything or you had nothing. And that's, I think, what a socialist economy kind of does.
That's right, it does.
It does, and you don't have like this middle class.
You have a few of the elites.
Yes.
And then everyone else is just kind of, it's kind of like spreading the poverty around in a sense. Everyone gets an equal share of nothing.
Sure.
Exactly.
And I think the opportunity we have here is everyone is free to go get an education,
Right.
go get a job, go run for office if you want. There are no limitations on anybody. And I think that is what is amazing about the opportunities we have here.
There's one limitation, and that is if you cannot run for president unless you're a native-born citizen.
Yes.
That's the only limitation,
Yes.
which is interesting. Most countries go a lot further than that.
But
Yeah.
other than that, as she says, if you're willing to put in the work, the sky's the limit,
Exactly.
literally. But once again, you have to be responsible. You're the one who has to do the legwork.
Yeah.
You have to do the work.
You have to make smart decisions.
And
And you kind of have to work for the long term,
right, yeah.
not immediate gratification.
everyone
What's
else,
the future?
Everyone else isn't going to make a decision for you. Everyone else isn't going to do it for you. Everyone else isn't going to,
Yeah.
And you'd wait until hell freezes over.
Exactly.
And it's not going to happen, no matter what anyone says. It so boils down to, yes, equal opportunity. If you want to take advantage of it, go for it.
That's right.
You can have it. If you don't, if you want to sit back and wait for someone to give it to you, good luck.
Exactly. Now, one more thing I wanted to ask you about. You've ruled out running for office in the near future. Have you left it open for the future at some point?
I have not
Tim
planned
really
anything
wants
that
you.
far
Tim really
out.
wants you to run. He really does.
I'm honored and I appreciate the question. But
I think
right
you'd
now,
add something
no.
to our legislature that a lot of times just isn't there. A very vivid experience which helps you form a solid opinion. You haven't been indoctrinated. You can speak about your life experiences.
Well, I
And
think,
they're relevant to what our problems are right now in this country. Very
I think
relevant.
she could
We do have-
bring an extra insight that you don't see with a lot of, what do you want to say, native-born Americans.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Is that she knows where she came from, what it was like there, what she has here, and I think that's a valuable insight that could be very, very precious in our
Yes, it definitely
in
could
the
be.
halls of Congress and the state capitol.
Well, when I first ran, it was really to preserve what we actually have, preserve the opportunities, preserve the freedom. That's why I ran. And we have some great people in St. Paul right now. So since I still want, that is still my goal. If someone else is running, and I've been, an active supporter of past candidates since my run, I will still continue to help those who do run. Because in the end, our goal still is to preserve what we do have here. As Reagan said, we can lose it in a generation.
We sure can.
So let's not lose it in our watch, right?
That's right. That's a wonderful story. Now, a few more questions I want to make sure I remember to ask. You came
Sure.
from Gujarat, which is a state in India on the
Yes.
west coast.
Yes.
And is there anything special about Gujarat? I always understood that people were a little bit more ambitious there than in other parts of India.
That is true. My parents were all business owners. It is generally the business community.
Right.
And actually, the current Prime Minister of India used to be what we would call the governor of that
Right,
state. And he is the one actually opening up a lot of things in India, encouraging foreign investment, opening it up for education, jobs, and the market. So, so it seemed like they're starting to make some good progress.
Okay, well, that's always good to hear. Anything else you want to tell us that we forgot?
No, I really enjoyed this time. Thank you
Well, we've
for
enjoyed listening to you. This is just a tremendous experience.
Very much so.
And I think people need to know that opportunity is there if they got the guts to get out there and take it. And but if they expect somebody else to look after them, they're probably going to end up being looked after all right, but not that well.
Yeah, I would just want to say to our viewers that everyone has it in themselves to be great. They should go out and reach for the stars. And if they happen to want to run, I know we'll all support them.
Well, that's great. So someday you may want to run again then, right?
Maybe.
Okay, you keep the option open. You have an awful lot to offer this country as well as this state.
Thank you.
And we don't want to lose you. You got something valuable I think you can contribute. I'm really laying it on you, I know that, but I'm doing my job for my country.
Thank you.
Any other observations you have to make about politics or the country right now? We got a few minutes left.
I think it's going to be interesting this year. You know, there's a lot of things happening in the presidential race, so it'll be
I'll
interesting
say.
to see what actually happens in November. I'm interested. I would say everyone should go out and vote.
Right.
It still makes a difference. We're clearly seeing in the primaries every vote is making a difference.
That's for
and
sure.
I think it will in November too.
Well, you know, it's right now. It's a very interesting, shows a campaign. When this show airs, I'm not sure where things are going to be. But right now, you got 3 people still in the running. You have a multi-billionaire who's a little unpredictable, running, who's the Republican candidate, evidently. And then you have 2 still vying for the Democrat. One of them's a self-acclaimed socialist, and the other, well, how do we describe Hillary? I'm not sure.
A scoundrel is what I would describe her as.
Yeah, a criminal that just hasn't been caught yet, or I'm not
I
sure
think
how to
that's
describe
probably
it.
how, you know, she's got such a terrible track record of working the system that I'd be very, very concerned if she ever got into power. I really would.
It's becoming a very, very, shall we call it, entertaining presidential election.
It sure has.
You know, but as it goes right now, all I have to say to those people who are thinking about not voting, if it comes down to Trump and either one of the other two, Trump on his worst day
It would be better than
is
Hillary
still
on her
better
best.
than the other two on their best days.
Yeah, I think we
so,
can count on Hillary to get the nomination. I think
and-
things are pretty well fixed in that
And
territory.
we still need you to go out and vote.
Yes,
because,
that's for sure.
Yeah, if you don't vote, all it is a vote for the other side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I hope people get that message delivered in very
I hope so.
solidly and firmly, because Trump is not my favorite, but however, he's just incredibly better than what the Democrats have to offer right now.
It's not going to be the first election where you've had to hold your nose when you go into the voting booth, but
I can tell you a few, but we don't have time. We're about out of time,
really.
and we got to turn it off. Thank you very much. See you next time.